Do you have any advice for anyone who could be viewing this that is thinking about doing a work exchange like this?
I'd say take it very easy, and I think something that I've always thought whenever I go to these farms, on the first day you're like, you don't know anyone and you're just making light conversation, or you don't know anyone really that well. And I always think, well, I know in 1 week's time I'm going to be laughing with these people, or I'm going to be sweating out, digging ditches, or eating a really good home cooked meal, and it's going to have a completely different atmosphere. So I'd say just to kind of know that it's going to be a lot of fun, your experience.
Do you have any thoughts about sustainability?
Well, that's another thing about this place that I've enjoyed in relation to sustainability. It feels like quite an experience to have compost toilets, or showering once every couple of days, or I know that's not the premise of sustainability, but I know that can contribute. It feels like a good experience. I think what I'm learning about that is it's important for things to be put in moderation. I think like my older brother in Scotland, he doesn't bother buying things from across the world, or he'll buy things from as close as he can. So it just means buying some carrots, or doing your dishes by hand every so often. And it kind of interlinks with a lot of how people have to live their day-to-day. So she was talking about how, yes, someone might be able to buy organic lettuce from their local shop, and drive down there nicely. But then what about where has this come from? If that's come from Mexico and they've been worked in horrible conditions or getting paid very little, and yes, it's organic, but it's also been driven 200 miles up the coast, or whatever. And so I think sometimes it's thinking about the bigger picture, and very often I think that's what sustainability kind of is.
Do you have any thoughts about minimalism as a lifestyle, kind of on the note of sustainability?
I do, actually. So this might be a bit controversial, but I feel like sometimes it can be a bit of a title, like, oh, I'm a minimalist. And I think it's really good to not have, I think it's easygoing, like I've just done my washing, so this is a clean top, but last week I wore this top 4 or 5 times just because I've not got very much in my bag, and that feels good, and who cares if it's a bit dirty, or you don't have to think about quite so much. And who needs like the newest iPhone so that they can get distracted away with that? Or I think minimalism is good, to not be so consumed in all this, like I need to have this, I need to have that, because when you do, it takes away a bit of your grounding, I suppose. It just takes away your joy in life sometimes if you're so caught up in wanting so much. But equally, I think you can live without necessarily having a great deal, without being like a minimalist. I just don't like the name of it personally, but that's just me. Yeah. But I think it's a very good way to live, and a very simple way to live, which I enjoy very much. That's my view.
So maybe we've talked a little bit about how I view selflessness through making this a lifestyle, and also on the side of the host. I see very selfless actions in bringing travelers into your home and sacrificing your privacy, your comfort, potentially your safety. So what do you think about both sides of the equation, just in general? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I think being here and being on a farm where it is a young family, and really taking you in and kind of having each meal with you, and once took me out for a really nice meal out to a restaurant, and we all sat there with our kids there, and she said, I was a bit worried because the prices were so heavy, you know. And she said, Miriam, you have worked all day ploughing out this for me, or planting this, or watering the chickens and watering every day, you know, and you've not got pay, so this is my treat to you. And that felt so generous, you know, to be treated to a meal of going out like this. And especially with her young kids, like, yeah, they really, I think it takes a lot to take in these travellers, as you say. And I think, as we've talked about, yeah, it feels really good to give back to the farms, as I think I mentioned this earlier on, but yeah, to give back and work hard. And I like your idea about making the like making their dream come true a bit, you know, or like if this is their plan, and then if you're a hard worker, you can get that done in like 3 days, and then you see the look in their eye and they're like, oh, you know, you've just created like a shower crane cab, wow, that's amazing. Or no way, did you really just dig out that whole ditch? Now I can wash my own dishes, you know. And like I very much enjoyed that, and I've always had a lot of appreciation from the hosts, so it feels, I don't know, yeah, it feels really good. On a different side to necessarily like volunteering and helping out in the worst of the worst cases, you know, where there's a lot of maybe sorrow involved. This is like I suppose it's not volunteering, but you're working towards something with a really positive edge to it. And also it's just fun, like being in Scotland, there's no sun ever, you know, and so getting to be outside in the sun, yeah, it's a good thing to do, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. If you could sum up one major complaint about the typical American lifestyle,
what would it be? Oh man, I think if you asked me this question when I first came to America, I would have not necessarily a complaint, but a lot of constructive criticism, you know. I'd be like, oh, this and the next. But the more I've got into it, like for example, I'm about to become a nurse, and going out for a meal where all these older men are eating like a whole bunch of like deep fried business, and I'm thinking, oh man, you know, like no one, yeah, everyone's complaining about how high the heart attack and health things are, and get your butt out of this diner, you know. But then the other day we went to a diner and it was like these old men having a good old chat and laugh and talking on the phone very loudly, you know. And it's like, it's an atmosphere, and it means I don't have any complaints about it. It's kind of like, it's just acceptance. But the one thing I think I have a complaint about is the lack of public transport, because I don't like to drive, or maybe I would, but I don't have anything to drive by. And it feels good to like go for a cycle down the road and feel safe, or just walk somewhere easy on a pavement. And it feels like we're in the middle of nowhere, but when I'm in like a you know, a suburb or someone's home area, it still doesn't really have anywhere just to walk on the pavement sometimes, or cycle doesn't feel very good to do. So I would strongly improve your public transport, America.
Concur.
Yes.
And what do you love most about America?
Oh man. Well, I really love the weather so far, because it feels sunny and glorious and lovely sunsets. Everyone is entirely welcoming, and when I first came to America, everyone was saying, "You're from Scotland," you know, and it was just brilliant. It was a real conversation starter. And I love, I don't know, I love coming to America, as my dad is American, born and raised, grew up on a farm, worked really hard, and so it feels really good to all the stories that I've grown up learning or listening to, or all the things that he did on a farm. It now has some context, and it makes me smile so often when I see something that he talks about, and now it's like, oh, I understand. Or like when this whole Donald Trump business was going on, I don't like politics, so I refused to talk to my dad about it. But now hearing it from some people in America's view, I'm like, oh, I wish I listened to my dad a bit more about that, you know, where it just gives me fond memories of conversations with my dad, I think.
Do you have any thoughts on the 50-year plan?
I think it's a very good plan, you know, in terms of sustainability, as we talked about, and I love the idea of giving something to these farms, and I think you're going to be, and the long-termness of it. But I have a few worries, just that, like, how will you, I don't know, what about like having a family or falling in love, or what about just enjoying like being in a home or whatever? Like, you'll always be on the road. That would be such a challenge, you know. But also one that you've probably very much have already considered all these things, and also, yeah, I think it's pretty radical and pretty cool, and I feel like when you first told me about it, like, oh man, I'm being part of this guy's story, you know, like, yeah, those are my thoughts on it. And I hope that it's a great success. But also, are you going to be doing it as an old man then? Kind of like working away?
I'd be like 80 if I completed it.
Yeah, that's my initial thought is, I wonder if you'll do it for a whole 50 years, you know? But I reckon whatever you do, it'll be good. So yes. And I'm glad to be part of it.